seen later walking downtown. She says, go home, get a good night's rest. Well, Enoch goes back to the tea shop, and he's seen by residents in New Albany sitting outside with his pocket knife, sharpening it and sharpening it, taking the blade down and stroking it back up, backing up. And we don't know what happened later, but he walks around the city again, and later that night goes back into the shop, locks the door and goes into the front business room, opens up the wood stove, lights it for the last time and sits down. And there are witness accounts that he's sitting in a chair with his hands in his head, clutching his face, and nobody knows why. Nobody stopped to see anything. And later that night he closed it up, went up to the second floor. There was a loud rustle here and there heard in the night. The next morning his boss arrives. He knocks on the door, he can't get in. He goes to his neighbor next door at what is now the antique shop, and he says, I can't get in. Enoch is not awake. Enoch had been living there for 10 years. The shopkeeper didn't even have keys to the building. His neighbor looks at him and goes, well, I know the way to get in. I've broken in there several times. The owner of the shop goes, okay. So the neighbor breaks in through the back alley, and he goes upstairs, and he goes, Enoch! No answer. Searches the downstairs floor, nothing has been disturbed, still a few coals left in the fire. Continues upstairs to the second story living quarter. Enoch! Looks around, he cannot find Enoch West. So he continues up to the third floor. And as soon as he hits the third floor, he sees blood trickling down the stairwell. Enoch West had carried his bed pallet. It was not a bed. His boss had no clue. He slept on wooden boards, had one pillow and one quilt. Very simple lifestyle. He didn't spend any of his money. Up there they found him. Throat slit. He slit both jugulars. Enoch took his pocket knife that he had sharpened, and they don't know why he had moved to the third floor. Probably to look out and say goodbye to his city one last time. Takes the pocket knife, grips it in his left hand, and slowly draws right to left. Takes it in his right hand, ear to ear, and slits it across. They said it took him about 15 minutes to slowly die. Enoch is buried in this section right here, past the DePaul Memorial. That brings us to our next story. Standing there in imported Italian marble and raised in 1887 is the W.C. DePaul headstone. Washington C. DePaul was a very successful businessman. He grew up in Salem, Indiana in the 1800s. He moved to New Albany during the 1860s. He was married 3 times and lost 4 of his children. He owned 2 homes, the famous DePaul Mansion on Main Street, and another home, a summer home, that was on Charlestown Road. That home was destroyed in the 1917 cyclone. Now, tonight we'll be meeting his wife, Miss Washington C. DePaul. It's fall of 1887, and Mr. DePaul has just passed away. Now, some of his businesses include the American Plate Glass Works, Woolen Mills Iron Works, and a plank road company, saw and grist mill. He also had stock in livestock industry and agriculture.